Let's get this show on the road, shall we? Module 1, Lesson 1, The Matrix of Control and the Laws of Civilization Building. By the way, I chose this idyllic setting of a flower garden to compensate for the dismal and awesome subject that I'm about to discuss. Civilization depends on two factors: controlling human conduct and controlling human numbers. The former ensures that individuals conform to established rules, so it does not lead to conflict between people and the destruction of property. And the latter ensures that people do not outgrow the available resources, so it does not lead to hunger and war. Controlling human behavior is a strategy to prevent conflict between men, which would lead to the disruption of society. And controlling human numbers is a strategy to prevent conflict between man and nature, or more specifically, between man and resources, which would lead to the destruction of society. Controlling human behavior and numbers are the micro and the macro strategies of civilization building. The one limits the individual and the other society. Together, they constitute the innermost and the outermost circles of control. The rationale is this: if human behavior is perfectly controlled, there is no conflict between men and society is peaceful. And if human numbers are perfectly controlled, there is no conflict between man and natural resources, and society is prosperous. Controlling human behavior leads to peace, and controlling human numbers leads to prosperity. Peace and prosperity are the preconditions of progress, thus the building blocks of civilization. Society is an artificial construct entirely of man's making, and therefore entirely out of God's or nature's hands. We have risen above the natural order and broke free of its constraints by our ingenuity and cooperation. Technology and social order keep civilization alive, and civilization allows us to escape the clutches of nature. We are independent of nature, but this independence comes at the cost of our interdependence. We depend on one another to make civilization possible, and thus rise above nature. And because we depend on one another, we impose rules on one another, so that individual rights are limited for the sake of coexistence, which results in collective well-being. And because we depend on one another, those in positions of authority impose sacrifices on everyone, so that human numbers are limited for the sake of survival, which results in civilizational progress. The imposition of rules makes controlling human behavior possible, and the imposition of sacrifices makes controlling human numbers possible. Religious and secular authorities have always cooperated to shape and control human behavior and to limit and cull human numbers. But while the effort to control human behavior has always been honest and open, in that rules governing human behavior are well advertised and the same for all, the effort to control human numbers has always been dishonest and closed, in that rules governing human numbers are hidden and reserved to a privileged few. Until the end of the 19th century, religious authorities have made the rules that govern human conduct, and secular authorities have enforced these rules. Equally, religious authorities made the rules that limit human numbers, and secular authorities enforce them. Since the beginning of the 20th century, religious and secular authorities have shared the responsibility of making rules that govern both human conduct and human numbers. And nationally, the rules that govern human conduct are enshrined in law by the legislative branch of government, while internationally they are enshrined in law by international bodies, namely by the League of Nations from 1920 until its dissolution in 1945, and since 1945 by the United Nations. The rules that govern human numbers, however, are not enshrined in law because the very act of limiting human numbers is a violation of fundamental rights and liberties. That is why population growth to this day is being limited without the knowledge and consent of the people, and the program is held in utmost secrecy. How the program of population control is being kept secret and exactly why we will explore in the coming lectures. For the time being, I shall reveal the 4 laws that have govern and will continue to govern human civilization. These laws can be rightly called the laws of civilization building because they underlie all other laws that govern our civilization across cultures. In fact, they underlie all our efforts. Across the sweep of time, human civilization has depended on society's ability to control population growth, and this effort has determined and continues to determine every aspect of our lives. The 4 laws of civilization building are: 1. That you have to limit the quantity of life to improve the quality, and you must do it selectively to aid and accelerate the process of natural selection and improve the intelligence and genetic makeup of the stock. 2. That you have to slow down population growth to remain within the technical ability of society to produce food and build infrastructure. And you have to do it by any means necessary, because failing to do it will have only negative consequences. 3. That once you get close to the planet's carrying capacity, you have to stabilize the population in perpetuity and stabilize it at a level that is sustainable, so the planet's life support systems are not damaged, in which case intelligent life would unintelligently sow the seed of its own destruction. And 4, that once a state of harmony is reached between civilization and nature, all subsequent progress depends on society's ability to reduce the number of people in direct but inverse proportion with the per capita increase in the consumption of resources, and that this reduction has to be accomplished with everyone's free and conscious collaboration. In other words, the more technologically advanced our civilization becomes, the fewer people can be accommodated on planet Earth, and all people must contribute to mankind's reduction in numbers to enable mankind's ascension in level of civilization. These laws address the existential risks that threaten our species and our civilization with premature extinction, or the permanent and drastic destruction of our potential for desirable future development. And in this task, the task of reducing our existential risks, death is as valuable as life, and no sacrifice is too small or too big.